and welcome to this expected outcomes training video. Today we'll be talking about the Scrum, and our goal is to build a process behind expected Scrum outcomes. So the tool we're going to be using to go through the process today is available at bcrugby.com. If you go to the referee and coaches section, click on referee resources and off field, you'll see that there's the prep and review exercise training. If you click here, you'll be able to download the Microsoft version. There's also a Google version of the doc. So we'll just go through the tool really quickly for everyone at home. Effectively, the tool is based on Plan A and Plan B. The Plan A pretty much talks about the role of the players and the referee together, mainly the 6 front rowers, in order to set up the Scrum efficiently and with stability every step of the process. And we will talk a little bit about Plan B, which is primarily the observation and decision-making phase of individual player actions. And again, we will talk about the need for reviewing our Plan A before we get to the Plan B, because obviously if we start singling out individual players and we do so incorrectly, it could have a pretty negative effect on the scrums and on the game itself. We start with our Plan A, and that of course starts with our alignment. So pre-crouch, are the hookers to the left, and is everyone in their own space? If the answer to that question is yes, on the template you just indicate a little 1, it turns it to a green indicating yes, it's done properly. Then we move on to the bind phase. Between crouch and bind, is each player bound strong and comfortably to their own teammates? And of course, at the bind call, do we have the tight head bind on the back and off the arm of the opposition loose head prop? And do we have the loose head prop binding on the body of the tight head with a neutral or up facing elbow, and just avoiding that kind of elbow pointing down, chest pointing down picture? If the answer is yes, we move on to the next phase. And of course, if our answer is no, we would say no and still move on to the next phase, because of course this analysis is for video and we have no direct control over the outcome. The stability between bind and set, pretty important. Something that we've talked about here in BC for the past 3 years is just making sure that the scrum has stopped moving before the set call comes. If the answer is yes, obviously we indicate a 1. If it's no, we indicate a 0 for no. And just there after the set call, we would pause the video and enter a predicted result. So if I've noted here that the stability between bind and set was a no, meaning there was movement and instability before the set call, I would input my predicted result. And of course, having done this a few times and seeing a few of my own refereeing performances, I have indicated the predicted result is going to be a collapse. You can indicate whatever you like in that column. Afterwards, I would continue playing the video after the ball's in, and I would just note if I've noticed anything with the loose head shape, elbow facing downwards, left foot stepping out, or head and shoulders below hips. So any major problems, not getting too technical, we would indicate a 0 for no. But if we have good loose head shape, we would indicate a 1 for yes. Moving on to tight head shape, yes or no. Is the shape acceptable? So basically that means, is the tight head's feet underneath him? Is he in a position that he can, at a height he can maintain? And is his bind in a strong position, as well as his chest locking down and out into the scrum? And of course, we pause the video after the scrum is over, and we would write the actual result in the result column. In this case, it was a collapse. And if anything we'd done, particularly in Plan A, as a referee that we failed to do or that we've done incorrectly, we would just note that as a referee effect. If we have no referee effect in Plan A, or we haven't missed anything, or we've misidentified something in Plan B, we obviously would not indicate anything. In this case, clearly the bind set stability was not there, so we'd indicate that as a referee effect. So back to the setup, never stable between bind and set, which is pretty much a referee problem, not a player problem. So that's how we do it. I'll go through a few examples from a game that I've refereed recently, and we will just see what some of these pictures look like in different areas of the field. So the first thing we'll look at is alignment, and that's obviously what's being negotiated by the players here. So we're going to look at the foot of the hooker, generally the right foot in this case. So we have one and the other. So we'll just try to see if they are lined up to the left. And right away we see that one is on the line, the other is just to the left of the line. It's obviously pretty close. So we could have better alignment here. The other problem, of course, with our alignment is look at the shape of our tight head prop who's coming in very close. Almost, we're barely at the crouch phase and the head is almost right on the shoulder. The other problem is we have the loose head prop who's not aligned in his own space. So already he started off at an angle with his left foot a little further out, almost close to the flanker's hand than we would like to see. So right away, this first scrum, I would give the alignment no. Going into the bind phase of the scrum, again, our problem's mainly with alignment. The binding itself, not too problematic. Elbow up here and off the arm. So we can say yes for the binding, but we've already identified, and I'm sure you can see it on your screen, there's a huge problem as the ball is being introduced into the scrum, which is putting a lot of undue pressure onto the white team, putting the ball in here just outside their defensive 22. And now we'll look at the stability between bind and set. So we'll just go back half a step here. So we're looking bind, set. So the scrum was fairly stable after that that bind call before the set call was in. But again, we've already identified a huge alignment problem leading to this bit of an angle already from both teams, with the tight head going in on his own hooker and the loose head obviously outside of him, almost on the hip of his opposition player. So we can go ahead and say yes for stability between bind and set, but I'm going to stop it here and show a predicted result that the scrum is going to collapse. Let me just clean up that formatting a little bit. So now we're going to look at the scrum itself after the loose head shape from the non-put inside is not good. Neither is the tight head shape. The scrum ends up successful, but standing up, and the ball is thrown into open space because there's so much pressure being put on that 8-9 combination at the back. So here we can say our loose head shape was definitely a no. Our tight head shape was definitely a no. And our result was ball out with illegal pressure, and that was from the scrum standing up. So we're not necessarily saying someone needs to be penalized here, but what we are saying is we are going to get involved with a referee effect, because here we have a problem with our plan A. We should never have a problem with our plan A if we're going to expect a good outcome at scrum time. So here, what we failed to pick up from a refereeing point of view was poor alignment. So I would just say problem with setup, loose head prop and tight head prop not aligned in their own space prior to moving on. Different area of the field this time, in the attacking 10-meter area. It's the attacking team with the ball just outside of their opposition 22-meter area. So we'd call that the attacking 10-meter area between halfway and the 22. Looking at our alignment, once again, we have a bit of a problem with a shoulder tucked from this loose head prop here. This loose head prop is trying to get right on the outside of his man, as his bind is already on the shorts of his opposite of his opposition. The white tight head is already starting to go in onto his own hooker. So we have a huge problem with alignment. Props are not in their own spaces at the crouch phase of the scrum. So we would just indicate alignment as a no. Looking at the binds, no big problem. Initially, bind from the loose head prop, again, almost on the shorts, but still on the body. The tight head prop bind, good enough. So our bind isn't our big problem here, although a lot of our issues with bind could be related back to our alignment problems. And of course, stability between bind and set, not quite stable, because players are still fighting for their own spaces. So our predicted result at this stage would be a scrum collapse. Our loose head shape after the ball's gone in is not good, as he's turned straight in on an angle. Our tight head shape also not good, as he's gone in arguably first to create that picture. Again, not saying that they need to be penalized, but we are going to say that their shapes are not good. And our actual result, well, the scrum was so unstable, and the 9 ended up flashing the ball, which free kick was given. And looking at so free kick for a delayed put in would be our result. So looking at the picture here, if we say we have a problem with alignment, stability between bind and set wasn't good as a result, and we don't even need to look at our plan B, our individual player elements, because of course they're going to be red, because the players probably at this level will not be able to deal with not being in their own spaces. And we would have to say that there's a referee effect here. So I would just say an incorrect free kick, problem with the setup, loose head prop and tight head prop not aligned in their own space. So now that we've seen this happen twice, what we would love to do in game as a referee is start to identify the problem at alignment and fix it. And once we've fixed the problem with plan A and we still have a problem with loose head and tight head shape, we can move on to individual players. But in this case, we don't really need to start to think about angles or binds or foot position or what the tight head is doing or the loose head's doing or even what the hooker is doing. We just need to look at, are all 6 front row players in a good position to succeed from the pre-crouch all the way to the set and ball in phase of the scrum.
The story from the first 2 scrums is already told. The need to go back to basics and plan A for all 6 front rowers and the referee is there. The alignment, pre-crouch and crouch, the front row players and the referee need to make sure the hookers are left, the shoulders are out, all players are in their own space and in a strong and comfortable body shape to continue.
After crouch, we look at the binds. Again, are all players still in their own space? Are the tight head props binding on the body, not the arm? Are the loose head props scrummaging with their elbow neutral or up, not in a down facing position towards the ground? And ultimately, are they in a strong, comfortable position at bind?
Arguably the most referee-driven component is the timing after bind and before set. After bind, have the feet stop moving and have the shoulders and hips settled. And after set, is the scrum in a stable position? My challenge to anyone trying this drill at home who has a red in the plan B or individual player columns and all greens in the plan A or alignment, binding, and stability columns is to reassess how well plan A was actually done, because if we get individual player actions wrong and start making technical decisions, we risk impacting the scrums negatively and the entire game. Thank you, and please check out our other resources at bcrugby.com.